Hello, welcome to another week. I hope you all had a fantastic week last week, and yeah, hopefully we have another fantastic week. My name is Merrick Counts, and welcome to the Null News. So this is a time where I've given it to hang out with you guys, chat about the news that's going on in the cloud, with security, with just cloud features, and Kubernetes in general. And so yeah, that's what this is. If you're new, yeah, we talk about security first, then we talk about the clouds in general, whether it be AWS, Azure, or GCP, or even some other, like we're going to today. We have a little bit about VMware. They released something new for the clouds. And then later on, we're going to talk about some blog posts that I found really interesting, bring up some interesting topics. And last, we're going to talk about two new open source projects that I found. All right. Other than that, we need a general disclaimer here. Really quickly, as I reorder just two tabs that I think should be in a different place. General disclaimer. All opinions here are those of my own. I'm not paid by anybody, and I don't represent anybody that I've worked for in the past, present, or future. So yeah, that's it. Second disclaimer that I need to make at each one of these is for the whoever, YouTube is guaranteeing me somebody reviews each one of these videos because I get shadow banned after each one. Stop doing it. I don't do anything bad or mean or malicious, and you've seen that over months of me making these videos. So please stop doing that. It's annoying. Good morning, Russell. All right. And since you're reviewing this video right now, yeah, you know that I know. Your system sucks. And I'll say that. All right. Let's talk about security. So I don't know how many of you know who Krebs is. Krebs on security is a pretty well known. Some people really like him. Some people really hate him. I'm kind of indifferent. I read some of his stuff that I generally think is pretty well laid out. He is a reporter on security stuff in the cloud mostly. And a little while ago, he reported on a ubiquity breach that they kind of covered up. Now, I'm going to have to be careful with what I say because obviously ubiquity is going after news agencies, but that's pretty much what's happening. Also, Russell, thank you very much. Everybody should bring their tool of the day. That is fantastic. I like that. Thanks for bringing your tool of the day. We're going to have to patch elf. All right, we're going to have to look it up. I'll look it up. We'll look at it. Maybe at the end when we're going over the tools, we can pull up some other people's tools as well. That will be fantastic. We'll look up patch elf at the end. Remind me if I don't remember the name of the tool at the end. All right. Anyways, Ubiquity filed a lawsuit against the Brian Krebs. Maybe that's not how you pronounce his name. That's how I've always pronounced it. All right. There's a couple things that are interesting here. So I dug up a decent amount of information trying to understand everything that happened. Now, for defamation, it's actually a really high bar. And there's a couple people that are saying that they'll never use Ubiquity again. I guess I'm holding my judgment for whatever the courts find out. Defamation is really hard to prove, and so I doubt Ubiquity would actually go through suing him for only $425,000. I know that's a lot of money for all of us, but for a company, $425,000 in damage doesn't really seem like that much. Like they're probably paying more to this media firm. So I don't have it up, but the company that they're using to actually file the lawsuit is probably charging them in the millions. So I don't know. What it turns out, if you dig through all of this and you read through the original posts and all of that, was that basically at one point originally he said that in March it was an employee that was whistleblowing, and then in December a former employee. And Ubiquity is saying that he knew that the employee had already been fired, and that was the misleading and defamation. Anyways, very confusing as to why they're actually going through it, because honestly this just looks bad on their part. It's a bad follow-up to a bad handling of a cybersecurity incident. Like I always say, you're going to have cybersecurity incidents, period. As we see later on, Russia's aviation had one of the worst cybersecurity. I don't know. I hope that's actually was an April Fool's joke, but I don't think that it is. But we'll look at it. Anyways, you're gonna have cybersecurity incidences, and yeah, you just need to be open with them, and you need to move on and figure out how not to have them happen again. All right, so that is what's happening there. I wanted to build out like a timeline that was a little bit better for you all, but it was a little bit harder because it was really just about the one word he used. And that's what this one delves into, whether he knew it was a former employee or not. So yeah, in March, a Ubiquity employee warned. So in March 2021, and they're saying that he got fired a few months after that or left. I don't really know. And then later on, in December, he stated a former Ubiquity developer. So it doesn't even seem to me like he misled. He doesn't say whether this is the same person or not. And even if it is the same person, it doesn't even seem like it's that misleading on, yeah. Because I guess here, if it's referring to the same person, in March, they were an employee. I don't know. It still seems kind of petty for Ubiquity to go after him, especially based in a single word. Whether, yeah. Anyways, seems really petty, and it makes me sad because honestly, I find Ubiquity to be really nice hardware at home. It's like a really nice prosumer piece of hardware. If you're wanting to do networking at home kind of seriously, Ubiquity is nice, but maybe we have to stop using them. I don't know. The cybersecurity incident, yes, they mishandled it. Every company has to learn how to handle stuff like that. But yeah, I don't know. What are you guys' thoughts? Should we boycott? Should we boycott them? I don't know. All right, so let's move on to some other cybersecurity news. Now, this is a list of known exploited vulnerabilities. Also, if we do boycott Ubiquity, what do we use? Do you guys know of anything that's kind of similar? I know like we can do pfSense. I've kind of wanted to do my own pfSense firewall, but that's not really the whole router and ecosystem. I really like their access points and how easy that is to use. Yeah, I don't know. I'd love to hear from you guys. Yeah, Russell, that's the big thing. Like through all of this, was there even if they win, was there $425,000 worth the distrust that I feel like it's spreading? Maybe I'm wrong and other people trust them just as much, but honestly, when you go after a news agency for possibly the distinction of a single word, I feel like and when you're paying millions of dollars to an organization to win that for 425,000, it feels like it just isn't trustworthy anymore. And I feel like, yeah, I don't want to pay them any more money. Which kind of stinks because I really like their hardware. So I'm not saying that I'm not going to. I'm not going to say that I'm not going to do my Ubiquity build because I have plans. I have already scoped out the hardware for. I want to build the null servers here, and I want to have like a server farm of ARM servers here at my house. And I thought it would be a fun videos or set of videos on how to build like a at home data center and all the problems that we can solve. And it was going to be based off of Ubiquity for the networking. And I don't know if I'm going to have to make changes for that. I haven't bought the equipment yet. So we'll have to see. I don't know. I don't know how I feel yet. But I agree that they don't appreciate this $425,000 that they're going for, wherever that is. Yeah, the 425. Is it really worth it? I mean, especially they're losing money even if they win. Like they've lost money. So, all right. So the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, which sounds redundant because they have security in there, I believe they should have done Infrastructure and Cybersecurity Agency. But, they didn't consult me, and we all know that naming is hard. So we have Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, the C. And the interesting part is, I guess cybersecurity is one word, so it's not CSISA, it's just the CISA. Anyways, added 66 unknown exploited vulnerabilities to the catalog. So these are not just known vulnerabilities, they're known to be exploited as well. One of the big things, if you work in a U.S. government agency, when they get added to the list, you have a very short period of time before your government agency needs to have a patch installed. I believe it's like 2 weeks, which seems like too much time. It should be like 1 week. I don't know. Most of these, yeah. Anyways, most of these vulnerabilities have been known for a little while, so I feel like they should have already been patched. I don't know. This seems a little behind. But anyways, you can go check them out. They have all of them from Adobe. This is an alphabetical order. This isn't saying that Adobe has more than anybody else. It's an alphabetical order. Man, I can't say that word. Anyways, so yeah, check that out. So I can't actually find proof that this next thing is true, so take it for a grain of salt. Because there was a plethora of fake news last week for April Fools. But it wasn't released on March 1st or April 1st. So yeah, I guess a Russian aviation authority switches to paper after losing 65 terabytes of data. I can't imagine that data being images or video. I can see 65 terabytes if you're a YouTuber. I don't keep all my YouTube videos because I figure YouTube does, and and it's a lot, and it's still probably only a terabyte. So yeah, I don't know. I don't read Russian, so it was very hard for me to validate this because I don't read Russian, and the websites that are mentioned don't exist or I can't reach. But I don't know that this website existed a month ago either, so I couldn't tell you that. So again, but if this is the case, holy crap. Holy crap. I don't even understand how they're functioning as an airline or aviation agency. So let's talk about how we can, especially in Kubernetes, detect some stuff. So I do like Sysdig. And we're gonna see some blog articles in a little bit from Sysdig on how you might be able to detect and secure your infrastructure based off of some of this stuff. Sysdig does a lot of really good stuff. Some of the stuff that they're doing is reporting on these two CVEs. There's actually two, so critical vulnerability in Spring Core and one in the Spring Cloud. So I'm not a Java person, and I know that there's not very many Java developers out there, so this probably affects very few people, just like all those NPM vulnerabilities. But these are actually very, very serious. They're remote code execution. Basically, you can, execute your own code on your servers. Anybody can execute their code on your servers. So they're mining Bitcoin right now with your servers. Both of these are really prevalent, really easy to leverage, and you need to actually go and make sure you're not vulnerable to these. So if you're using Spring in any way, I would go check out these two articles. They do a really great job on how to assess your blast radius on them and give you some tips for mitigating them. So definitely go check these out if you're running in Spring, because it's pretty serious. Now, does this mean it's the death of the Spring Cloud Functions or the Spring Core? No, it's not. Every system like this gets these. They actually are going to be more secure because of this, because guess what? From now on, they're going to have even more things in place. So this is probably a good thing for the Spring community in the end. That's yeah. All right, we have Hive ransomware that is targeting the VMware ESXi. The only reason this made in it was they're switching to the Rust programming language just to prove that Rust is a superior language in almost every way. Now we're having our ransomware in it. Shoot, that's not a good thing, I don't think. Let's move on from that one. Apple and Facebook or Meta have been handing data over to hackers who fake emergency data requests from police reports. This is maybe another reason that we don't want emergency requests. Maybe these things where you hand over data should be like, I don't know, signed by a judge. Like maybe there used to be a good order for these things. Maybe that should be it. I don't know. Yeah, all 10 members of the Spring community. This is why I have such a huge community. Is because I offend almost everyone equally except Rust. I think actually I have said offensive things to Rust community, but I do offend most communities, and that's why I have. Well, that's probably why YouTube likes to shadow I don't know what it is. They take these videos, all my live ones, and they put them in the dumpster and pretend that they deleted them until I make a formal request that say, hey, I didn't do anything bad in that video. Can you please review it? And then a few days later. So only really my subscribers can see these videos. Anyways, it's a very weird dance I have with YouTube and being censored. Anyways, let's move on. Last cybersecurity thing before the last cybersecurity thing is the Project Ronin said on Tuesday that hackers stole $615 million from its system. There we go. Cryptocurrencies for the win. You guys probably know my opinion on cryptocurrencies at this point. All right, our last cybersecurity related thing is Red Lil, another NPM package repository. It's not me, everyone. This is literally what has cybersecurity flaws. Spring and NPM. It's not me picking on them. It's what is out there. It goes to show you really need to be careful with what you use, and you need to be very specific with what you use. You can't just go out. This goes for random Go packages, or you know what? Even another one better is random. And I know that this is going to hurt you. GitHub Actions, random GitHub Actions. You shouldn't be using random GitHub Actions. I absolutely disagree with that use. I know it's so easy to share a GitHub action, but what are you actually running? Have you actually looked through that code? Do you know how they updated it? Because even if it's good now, it doesn't mean it will be good later. And this is the same problem with NPM and all of them. So you need to be very specific with who you use and why. And you need to kind of trust the person building that package. I don't mean kind of. NPM is not written in Russell, be quiet. NPM is not written in Rust. NPM is JavaScript. At least it's a JavaScript package manager. It would be weird for that to be written in Rust. I guess I don't actually know. But if the package manager itself is written in Rust to manage, I would find that hard to believe. I think you lie. I have to look it up, though, because I don't actually know off the top of my head. All right, let's jump into cloud news. That was most of the cybersecurity stuff. Let me know if you know of anything about the... I'm going to continue looking into the alleged 65 terabytes of aviation data lost by the Russian Aviation Federation. Again, it was very hard for me to validate that. So I don't know if that was April Fool's, because it sounded like an April Fool's. I actually discounted it as an April Fool's initially, but it wasn't released on April 1st, and there was nothing that said April Fool's afterwards. So, I don't know. All right, so here is something I really like. NPM is written in Rust. Okay, well, in Rust's defense, because I'll have to come to Rust's defense here, this here is about the packages, not the actual command line tool. The command line tool is obviously perfect since it's written in Rust. That's all I have to say about that. Okay, let's move on to the cloud. Sorry. I will have to look that up, because if NPM is actually written in Rust, that's actually kind of interesting. My interest is piqued. I learn something new every day. I read this, and it was AWS, ECS, EKS, containers, Fargate, and this was all about containers are now a big business at AWS, but the competition is fierce. And I was reading and I was interested, and oh no, it got rid of my highlighted text. Okay, this was it. I fundamentally disagree, and I needed to call this out because I believe that many people adopt things like containers based off of this claim, and it's not why you use containers. It's not why Google ever used containers, and it's just bad to state it this way. AWS remains reluctant to acknowledge one of the major benefits of containers. They make it easier to run applications on multiple clouds. Tell me how containers make it easier to run on multiple clouds. That would be saying like virtual machines make it easier to run on multiple clouds. They're just as synonymous. Containers were used by Google to pack processes running on a single machine more efficiently than VMs. That's it. That's the difference between a containers are much more lightweight and don't virtualize the hardware. There's nothing about making it easier to run an application. Now, if you want to talk about Kubernetes making it easier, maybe. I would still argue that to a certain extent that's true, but not as much as most people would say. But that's Kubernetes. That's not containers. So maybe they're confusing the two, but yeah. Anyways, that's not what containers are. And I feel like, unfortunately, this gives containers this is why there's so much confusion around containers and the things like that, is because there's so much coverage of people that say stuff like this. And then it starts making people think this because they say it and they hear it a lot. And yeah. So this has been true for the last 5 years. I think it's more now, especially with war on the front. The cybersecurity attacks, as you're going to see from a Cloudflare blog in a little bit, are up. So the clouds are buying a lot and investing a lot in cyber attacks and cybersecurity. All right, let's get into our regular news. Anthos for bare metal 1.11. I always love the 1.11. Yeah, I think it's a fun release. Minor release now available. It basically bumps the version of Kubernetes and enables dual stack, which is a pain to use on your local. I was trying to make a video on dual stack. I spent probably a week on a dual stack video. But you know how painful a dual stat network is to run? It's painful. So that never came to fruition. All right. So that was pretty much it. Not super exciting, unless if you're an Anthos on bare metal. If you are using Anthos, that's kind of, if you really want to talk multi-cloud, Anthos is one of the ways to do it. Now, it sells you into Google. It still sells you into Google's cloud, but it is cross-cloud in the end. Amazon released two interesting things. Amazon Connect forecasting, capacity planning, and scheduling, now available in preview. This is interesting. So this is going to allow you to generate long-term, short-term forecasts, and I think that this could help with capacity planning. I know that a lot of smaller companies struggle with capacity planning. It's a hard and difficult thing to do. So I'm interested to see how this is going to help. So yeah, I'm looking forward to this, to see how this stacks up with some of the other things that are out there. The other thing that they're doing is the billing conductor. This actually is also kind of in the same line of things, and I think it's going to be really helpful because this is going to let you, where I see this really is like a large company that has different divisions that all have different cloud spend, but they all roll up to different organizations, and keeping all of those separate and understanding what division is spending what on what and how. I think this could be really useful to those. Your smaller startups and whatnot, I don't think that this is going to be as useful. All right. So I don't actually understand this. I'd love your guys' thoughts on this. Public preview simplified compute node communication. Simplified communication is always really important and useful. So that's why I brought this up. But I don't actually know what simplified compute node communication means. And then reading this, Azure Batch Service offers simplified node communication to manage the batch pool infrastructure by reducing complexity. It sounds like a bunch of good words. I don't actually understand how it's good. It sounds like a bunch of good words, though. So you guys, if you're using Azure, let me know what this actually means and how it's actually good, because I don't really know. This is kind of interesting. Bring your own IP address. I don't understand the technology that makes this work. But it allows you to use a custom IP range and to basically bring your own. The onboarding process for custom IP prefixes ranges. So, anyways, cool diagram, and I really liked that they actually went into how it works instead of just saying like, hey, we have this new thing. So it was kind of like half blog, half we have a new feature. And it's kind of an interesting feature. It's not one that I've actually ever used or thought of a use for, but it's still interesting. Now, one thing that I do like to point out here is that we need to stop with all of these abbreviations. Azure Resource Manager, or ARM for short, but this is also our processor architecture, and it gets really confusing. A classic one that I like to bring up is OCI, or Oracle Cloud Infrastructure. Why did they pick OCI? I don't know, because the Open Container Initiative is OCI, and one of the most confusing things is they've been a member of the OCI since like 2015, and yet they decided to name their cloud OCI. Stop it. I need everybody to stop doing this. This is garbage. All right, continuing in cloud, VMware is announcing the preview of VMware Cloud Flex Storage, basically making flexible storage in the cloud. I just rearranged the words. You can read more on this. I'm going to link all of these links in, most of the interesting links at least, maybe not all of them, in the description. So if you're on VMware, check out their Cloud Flex storage. It does look interesting. I don't personally run on VMware, but yeah, anyways. It's just a different way of basically providing flexible, different storage to your VMware clusters. So, yeah, I'm sorry. I'm just repeating the same words in different orders. We'll move on. I haven't actually tried it. You have to understand that this news is usually news I've encountered in the last week. It's nothing that I have gotten to play around with or am even recommending. It's just things that I found interesting, and thus take that as that grain of salt. Let's move into Kubernetes news. So they had a couple interesting blogs that I thought I would share with you. This is something I have been thinking of creating myself, and I'm glad these people beat me to it because they probably did a better job than I did. Cool kits. What are cool kits? Cool kits are all the images that you need to debug your application with the kubectl debug command. So have you ever been like, hey, I want to debug this, but I need a shell, and so you've done the good thing. You have gone out and you have removed everything you don't need from your container image. You did the distro list. I hate the word distro list because really it's still a distribution. It's based on a distribution. It's just ripped out everything but your application. You've done the good thing. And now you can't debug it. It's impossible to debug. Congratulations. This is where those ephemeral containers come in with the kubectl debug command, and this is where cool kits come in. Now, most of us have done something with like a BusyBox image to just get a place to, and cool kits basically is a bunch of different images that allows you, it's the ephemeral containers to connect to, and there's actually a couple of them that you can check out. Yeah. So yeah, they have ones with different, they have like a Go based one and whatnot to allow you to debug different, they have a JVM, a Node, and a Python one. So they have different cool kits that they provide to have these ephemeral containers for debugging. I actually think that this is huge. I think that this is really, really cool. I kind of want to try to see if we can't come across one for Go or Rust and contribute it here. This is super cool. And so Light Run platform, thank you. This is cool. We definitely need a Rust-based one. CoolKit-Rust should be one. It's the only thing hurting them so far. Kubernetes scheduler introduction. I know this is in the cloud section and not in the blog section, but it's a blog. But it was a blog on the CNCF, and I thought it was really good. You should check it out. If you're not familiar that much with the Kubernetes scheduler, it runs on the control plane. And it's something you should familiarize yourself with, especially because even the default scheduler, you can run your own custom scheduler, mind you, but even the default scheduler is really powerful and is more than enough for most people's workloads. And it does a lot of really cool things that can help you run in a sane manner. Because you know what, a lot of people are like, oh, well, Kubernetes is just going to run my node wherever, or my pod wherever. And you're right. It could just run it wherever. But you know what? Maybe you don't want it running on the same machine that all the other pods of that same one are. Maybe you want them spread out across different availability zones. This is where the scheduler can come in. Another thing you could do is like maybe you have a really memory intensive application. Maybe you have a really CPU intensive application and you'd like them to run together. There's just a ton of different things that you can do. So it's really good to know the API server well. So this article does a very good job on understanding the Kubernetes scheduler. Now, in my very slow to release Kubernetes class, we do have two lessons on the scheduler. So those will be coming out, but until that is out, this is a good introduction. All right. So, trusting SBOMs in the software supply chain. All right, so this was really cool because I know that I've been covering a lot of SigStore, and this is just how SigStore is actually helping secure the entire supply chain and can help secure the entire supply chain from start to finish, from signing container images and things like that to now SBOMs. yeah, here's it. So I really love, and this is mostly just me showing off that it's getting more prevalence throughout the industry, and absolutely is fantastic. All right, so that's it for the cloud news. If you made it this far, please hit that like button. All right, let's get on to blog news articles. Now, that being said, one thing I want to announce is in April 15th. Ooh, no, 13th, 15th, 13th. I don't know the date. Maybe the 13th. It is actually the 13th. So, week and a half from today, I'm going to be on Clustered again. This time on a team. So, I'm going to leave a link for that on the Discord, and next Monday I'll leave a link for that in the link of this. The guy that runs Clustered is fantastic, so you should be checking that out. You should be watching that. Watch that before you watch this if you don't have the time, if you want to see some fun Kubernetes debugging stuff. Yeah, going to be fun. All right. I'm working on a video for people to understand the blockchain, to actually understand what it means. And I'm sorry, I said the blockchain. I really hate that. Blockchain technologies. And I really hate the prevalence of the misinformation surrounding what it is and what problems it can solve. And I find articles like this, and I have grave concerns that they misunderstand what blockchain technology does. It's a public ledger. Public ledgers have to deal with consensus and replication. That's pretty much what their problems they solve. They solve public consensus and replication. That doesn't sound like this problem. And I'm not trying to be mean. I shouldn't have shown their name. My apologies. A lot of people are misled, and this is not me attacking any one person. This is just like saying containers solve multi-cloud. No, they don't. And it's prevalent throughout our industry. It's like saying what microservices are. People jump on microservices without actually understanding what a service architecture is or a microservice just because Google said it solved their problem. And thus, all of us have Google problems. And the author of this then conflates things like the Brave browser as the blockchain and protecting your data. Well, the Brave browser does protect your thing, and it does have some ties to blockchain with how it pays advertisers, because by default it blocks all of their ads. But that's actually part of the Brave browser and nothing to do with blockchain. It's trying to pay responsible advertisers that way with a coin, with a public ledger, but it's not actually the blockchain that's solving that problem. That problem is the Brave browser, and it doesn't need to rely on the blockchain. So anyways, I don't know. I need more time because I want it to be a really good video. But I am working on a video. It's going to probably be more like a small documentary, like 45 minutes in length. 45 minutes, or maybe even longer. I'm trying to fit everything in it to consolidate it down into a chunk that's easy to understand. Because I do feel like a lot of people's lives are going to be ruined by this. I'm trying to help people. That's what I do. All right. Which team? Russell. So I know, actually, I think I'm going to be coming up on two teams for for this. I on the 13th, I'm going to be going with my team at Aerospike. So I work for a company currently called Aerospike. This is not sponsored by Aerospike, but the guys that are there, we're going to do it. We're going to have fun. It's kind of a brand new team, so we're going to be figuring stuff out together, which is going to be kind of a fun team building. We're doing it as a team building thing, so it's going to be fun. Probably one of the worst team building things is to do clustered together. So, yep, that's what we're doing as a team building exercise. So that's going to be fun. And then, Russell, hopefully I'm going to do it with you and another dude in the future. I guess he's out for a month or two. But I'm really looking forward to that one because I know you and I have a lot of plans for the next that poor team. They're going to be nightmares. Yeah, it's going to be a company team. I'm actually really excited that that they were all willing. I kind of sprung it on them in a stand-up and was like, "Hey, would you guys be willing to do this?" And they were like, "Yeah, sure. Sounds like fun." So I'm excited. We're gonna do it. We only have a week to plan, so we're screwed. But yeah, we're gonna have fun. We're gonna have fun. We're probably gonna get annihilated. And we're gonna have fun being annihilated. That's what it's all about, is going out there to have fun and to learn. You'll always learn something, even if the thing you learn is to not cat a binary. Just don't do it. I mean, like, no matter how tempting it is, if you're like, oh, I bet they replaced this file with a bash script, use file first, then cat. Don't cat first. Causes problems. Has anybody used Keda before? I have not. Yes, Russell. Ours will be in summer and it will be brutal. I'm looking forward to it. I'm absolutely looking forward to it. All right, Keda. Has anybody used it? I read this. And I'm not. One of the big things that they talk about here is scaling to zero, which I guess is a thing that some people need to do. Maybe it's just that my architectures have never really needed to scale to zero. I'm always running at such a scale. Zero is not a scale for me. And so I get the event-based thing, which almost sounds like... So my problem with this is when you say, oh, I want to scale to zero, this almost sounds like you want a function, which then there's other things to give you on top of Kubernetes to give you Lambda functions effectively. And that's almost what it sounds like you want, is to scale to zero. So I'm not entirely sure what the use of it is. But anyways, it seems interesting, especially because one of the things, and this part did sound like it possibly is useful, is for things that are very much like batch oriented, so that you have a batch processor that like spins up at a certain point, and you want to scale then. So anyways, I'm not entirely sure. I wanted to know what you guys had thought. Had you guys used Keda? Go ahead and read this. See if you're less confused than me. I feel like I would actually need to use it before I was less confused. So that might be something I spend a little bit of time on in the future. All right. This is not in the cybersecurity because it's not an actual vulnerability. It was, but it was actually patched before this was released. What I loved about this is I dabble in hacking. Very much I dabble. And we're going to actually have a stream. Russell and I are going to have a stream in the near future, actually, hopefully in the next 2 weeks, as my life has calmed down. Anyways, very much dabble, and this was a really, really well laid out explanation of how a vulnerability, a real dirty, nitty-gritty vulnerability worked in Ubuntu. So it worked. It was patched before this was released, and it gives really good illustrations with really nice animations. It's just really well done. So if that's interesting to you and you want to see their thought process and things like that, go check it out. It's really quite fantastic. I wish more stuff like this was done like this. It's really well done. All right. Blog article of the week if you're in Kubernetes. If you're into hacking, this is the blog article, the engineering blog article of the week. If you're not into hacking, this is 99% to 99.9% SLO for high performance Kubernetes control plane at Pinterest. I found this to be a really interesting read for managing the Kubernetes control plane in depth. So we can go over all of it, but I found that this was really well done on their part. Well thought out blog article, something that you can learn from. I learned from it even. I know that a lot of us do Kubernetes all the time, and you think that all of us know everything about the Kubernetes control plane and things like that. And it turns out through things like clustered and whatnot, you learn something new every single day. Somebody that uses a new tool, a new whatnot, a new setting that you never knew about. And why control plane latency matters. You know what? I hadn't thought about control plane latency for the most part. For the most part, I don't develop things that rely on control plane latency. But there are things like operators that could rely on control plane latency. And so guess what? It can be important. And so these blog articles make you think on something in a different way. It's quite interesting. All right, so talking about security. Another security. Digital Forensic Basics, a practical guide for Kubernetes. This stands for Digital Forensics Information Reporter. I don't know what the IR stands for. I looked it up. I forgot. Oh, Digital Forensic Incidents Response. Okay. Well then. I suck at this. Here we go. This is, again, like I said, Sysdig does a lot of good stuff with Kubernetes. If it wasn't for my Kubernetes release notes, which is a video vlog on Kubernetes release notes, which we're coming up to a new release here soon, they have the second best blog article on the Kubernetes release, but they do a lot with security. One of their biggest open source projects, which they donated to the CNCF, is Falco, and you should be running it in your Kubernetes cluster. Probably. I'm going to say probably you should be running it in, which actively looks for threats and anomalies. So they do a lot. Okay, and they list Falco as one of the things. But this goes into even a whole lot more of all the tools out there to do digital forensics. Some of these are things that you use before a breach happens or can use before a breach happens. Some, like Kubesploit, are things that you can use after a breach happens or a suspected breach that you can leverage to understand the blast radius and what happened. All of them you can probably use before and after. But yes, anyways, definitely a fantastic read. It gives you a introduction into starting to use the tools and to leverage them. I'm only about halfway. I guess I'm a little over. Okay, I'm like right here through this so far because I'm actually really. I didn't want to just briefly read it. I briefly read the entire thing, but I'm actually going through and following along in some of the example and trying to recreate some of the things because it's actually a really, really well done blog article. Absolutely fantastic. Sysdig, if you want to do a video together on some of this, absolutely want to do it because Russell and I are going to do some hacking at some point where we do like some of the classical hack the box stuff. I also want to do like hack the Kubernetes cluster, kind of like I think that would be actually pretty fun to do. So anyways, this is pretty cool. It's a definite must read, even if you just touch Kubernetes a little bit. I emphatically disagree with this article. I'd love for you guys to disagree with me. I think the AGPL is a toxic license. I do. The AGPL, and even according to them, is to make it so that you can pay for your code. And I think it's a toxic open source license, something that the Null Channel Foundation will never use. And I don't like it. That's where I think it's actually toxic. I really do. If you can take something that I have put out there and make money off of it that I haven't done, feel free to do it. All my stuff is crap, by the way. So go have fun making money off of my crap. It's literally crap. But anyways, I don't actually think it's the future. And if it is the future, it's not the open source I want to participate in. That's all I have to say. All right. We do have 2 new open source projects, though, that we are going to talk about at the end of this. So stick around for the end of this because we're going to see 2 new open source projects that we can talk about. We can talk about why they may be exciting, and maybe I should have tweeted about it. I'm really bad at Twitter. Really bad. All right, this was by DigitalOcean. I love this blog post. It's about contributing to open source projects. And you know what? Contributing to open source projects is nerve-wracking. Absolutely nerve-wracking. Even if you contribute to a group of people that are really nice, it's super nerve-wracking. Look, I write a ton of crap code, and I put that crap code out there in open source repositories for all of you to see. And it's not pretty, but that's actually pretty nerve-wracking because it's my livelihood. That's how I pay for my son's type 1 diabetes and my family. So like there's actually a decent amount of like pressure. It's your livelihood. And or it is, at least for me. But I encourage you that one of the reasons I do it, and I even put some of my crappy code out there, is because it's actually a fantastic learning experience. Code reviews shouldn't be a place where you get shamed or where you get crappy code called out. Your crappy code should be called out, but in an educational manner. This is what I encourage my teams to always approach as a code review is a learning experience for both parties, for the reviewer and for the reviewee. It's not a my opinion over your opinion. It's not a battle. It's a learning experience for both. And if both parties take it as a learning experience, it's a place where you can grow so fast. I've grown more by contributing to open source than I have any private source. Now, it has some of its drawbacks per se, because it's a little slower to get a pull request in and things like that. But it is a fantastic learning experience. And so this is a great blog article on contributing to an open source project, and I recommend you read it. Yeah, you can pick whichever open source license. Russell, that is great. And I don't mean... I guess I do call the AGPL toxic. I guess I don't like it. For a lot of reasons. And we can get into those. And I need to make a video. It's kind of like my blockchain video. It's going to be a little bit of a documentary. It's on licensing, open source licensing. I don't like the AGPL because everybody disliked the SSPL, which the SSPL is the exact same thing, except instead of a more vague term, which I really don't like vague terms in legal documents, it says you can't host it as a service. So MongoDB. MongoDB uses the SSPL, not open source. And it says you can't host us as a service, but it's open for your use however you want, as long as that use isn't as a service. Very clear, very clean cut. I love that license. And I love that license because I'm not in this vague, am I breaching the software license agreement. The AGPL is very vague, and it makes it very hard for companies to use because it is very vague. And there have been a lot of people that say that they try to, even the Open Source Foundation came through and they said that, here's some clarification. But they didn't put that clarification in the legal document. So it's not actually clarification. And that clarification won't come until a court has actually made a ruling on it. What company wants to be the first company to have their case taken to court? Again, not. I also have a problem with generally the people that adopt the AGPL for why that they do, but I don't want to actually shame anybody that uses the AGPL, especially individuals. I have some problems with some companies that do it because I think that they picked open source for the wrong reason. But you're right. It's nice that people have. But it is nice that people have the different choices out there to license it in a way that makes sense. There's actually, people don't realize it, there's actually differences between the MIT and the Apache license. They're not the exact same thing. A lot of people say, oh, they're both permissive. They're both permissive, but they are different. Something we can get into. I'm not a legal expert. Don't take any of my things as legal experts. I guess I have to make that clarification. I'm not giving legal advice, but I do know that companies are very scared of the AGPL. Companies' legal teams are very scared of the AGPL. All right, rebuilding payment orchestration at Airbnb. I like this. It's not about the payment orchestration system. The cool thing that they did was they rebuilt it while migrating all the data. A very hard topic. It's like migrating a database in real time with no downtime. It's something that everybody's probably been through the pain of, and it doesn't get easier. And Airbnb did it. This was a really good walkthrough of how they did it with keeping their old system up and implementing their new one and how they did it and keeping fulfillment up. So yeah, going through the phased migration. Again, this is kind of pretty standard. This is why it's not the blog of the week. I think most people have done this, but if you haven't, if you've never done this before, if you're new in college, whatnot, just starting out, I would read this because I think it does a really good, simple walkthrough. There's still caveats that they didn't explain that I, going through this once myself, know that they had to hit, but it does a really good walkthrough. Another really nice article was running a small website in AWS. I know a lot of us use AWS for like our large companies that have millions of dollars of spend in AWS. But what happens if you have $10 of spend or $20 of spend? What can you do in AWS at that scale? And this was a cool blog article because like I don't tend to think that way. You know, some of us think, oh, free tier and whatnot. This guy pays something like $1 or something. But yeah, I don't remember exactly how much it was. It was pretty cheap. So yeah, definitely worth a read if you're into that. We won't spend too much time on it. Cloudflare released another great blog on what it's doing to keep the open internet flowing into Russia and keep attacks from getting out. I love the wording of this because keep the open information flowing into Russia as best as it can, and what it's doing to keep attacks from getting out. So what it's doing, it has a VPN service. If you didn't know, it does. And it's doing a lot to keep attacks from hitting the rest of the internet because it does a lot of the internet backbone. Super cool. Definitely check it out. This was cool. The Census 2 of free and open source software application libraries. You can go download it yourself. It has a lot of words, lots of words. But you're wanting to check out these appendixes of indirect and direct, and these are all like the top 500 npm direct version agnostic packages that are used. So Lodash is the number one. React is the number two. These probably aren't that surprising to you guys. I don't think. Simver is that high? Okay. I mean, you should adopt Simver, but you don't have to use the Simver package. I'm not even sure what the Simver package. I don't use npm, so let's move on to one that I actually know because I don't use the npm package. Let's jump into non-npm. This is where it actually gets interesting. You'll notice that Rust doesn't make an appearance until 42, I think. No, 44 with OpenSSL. So sucks to be Rust. A lot of Maven, no surprise. Huge Java contingencies out there. You guys can't read this. My bad. huge Java contingencies out there. Nugget, what is Nugget? .NET. I was like, what's? Oh man, I suck at a developer. gRPC is the leading Go. I did not guess that. I did not guess that. Facebook. How does Facebook even plague our... Oh my gosh. Facebook's everywhere. All right. So yeah, this is actually really cool. You should check it out. It's interesting. I like, we could sit here and check out the different things that are used. Klog, I did not know that Kubernetes... This just has to be because of Kubernetes. Period. Nobody uses Klog. It's a horrible logging thing made specifically to bolt into Kubernetes. Nobody uses it outside of Kubernetes. I don't think. Do you guys use it outside of Kubernetes? No. But it couldn't be number 21 if people didn't use it outside of Kubernetes. There's so much better logging libraries outside of Kubernetes. I guess the only reason would be is if you integrate with Kubernetes. So like if you're an operator, I guess you could make the argument to use Klog. And stuff like Cluster API and all of those things, I guess probably use Klog, but nobody uses it in like their maker services, right? Because I don't know. Yeah, Spring. You mean the thing that we have a vulnerability for? Yeah, that was high up. So yeah, they have a bunch of different categories, as you can see. So it's definitely cool to look through. You have the npm direct version, npm non-npm direct. You have the npm indirect. You have the non-npm indirect, and just a bunch of different. And this is the versioned packages. So this is pretty cool. This one, Go takes it with errors. I get it. That's kind of the leading thing there. So, anyways, this is fun. I love this type of information. This type of thing is cool, is fun. Definitely worth taking a look at. All right, let's talk about 2 open source problems. Oh, wait. Where was that one? One second. We're looking for SHA2 for Rust. That's right. Rust is coming. That wasn't in... Oh, man. Document search is not great here, especially with such a large document. I think that was in the not versioned. Was that in the... This one? I don't know which one that was in, but yeah, Rust is going to be on the top one of this. 1 to 21 are going to be Rust, and I don't know, 3 years. 3 years. 1 to 21. That would be the 5th consensus. It's going to be Rust. Let's get into open source projects. We have a legend has a new open source project. Is it going to be as infamous as his first open source project? If you guys don't know who I'm talking about somebody that I have... The first list I showed. Okay, I can go back and find that. That would be in the non-versioned. It's a little confusing. The direct non-versioned. Oh, you're right. Holy crap. Look at that. 13. Lucky number 13. Or that's 7. Never mind. That's Maven. The unlucky 13. Beautiful. All right. The creators of Docker. Now, I have a story history with the CEO of Docker because I have people that worked in open source that got nasty emails from said CEO. And so that kind of taints my perception of this person. But I don't want to use that to taint everybody's perception of this person. I don't know that they're all bad. I don't know. I don't know the person directly. I've just had interactions indirectly, and not all of those have been great. But that being said, Docker revolutionized a lot of stuff. absolutely a crap ton of stuff. And I'm not even going to say that it was somebody else. It was absolutely Docker that did that. And from the creators of Docker, after his 3 years of a sabbatical, Dagger. Now, I haven't used Dagger, but you can bet your sweet little trousers that over the next week, I'm going to be testing out Dagger. Actually, I already did over the weekend a little bit, but I can't really comment. I can't tell you whether I like it or not. So, like, don't take this as me quoting it. But I think it has potential. I think it actually has potential. And it's about building powerful CI/CD pipelines quickly and being able to run them anywhere. It's not containers for your CI/CD. It runs on containers, as they put. The Dagger engine runs on any Docker compatible runtime. I would probably say that it's any OCI, but maybe it's Docker compatible, which would be container D, which is what Docker used to run. Anyway, it doesn't matter. The cool thing is you can run these from GitHub Actions as well as just about anything else. They escape YAML hell, which is nice to write something other than YAML for once. And it allows you to create them with any language. So you can write them in your own language. And I find that Q, their language that they use, kind of looks like Go. I'm wondering if they used the Go language parser. But the really cool thing is, if you used GitHub Actions before, one of the hard parts is it's kind of a very weird disconnect between testing locally. So if all your tests run in GitHub Actions, but you want to run them locally before testing, there's things like Act and you can do it. It's just a little bit weird. And I'm wondering if this helps bridge that gap a little bit better. Not only that, if you use GitHub Actions to run Dagger, but then you switch from GitHub Actions to something else, it's possible that this could make that switch a little bit less painful. It also looks like it just brings some really interesting things to the CI/CD ecosystem. So I'm excited about it. I'm really actually excited about it. Yeah, it uses, I don't know, I call it Q, C-U-E language. What are your guys' thoughts on it? Have you guys used it yet? I don't know. Do you guys just not check the news since you have such a fantastic tech news reporting right here? I would be honored, but I would also call you a fool. I feel like I can be like that with you guys because if you've been here since the beginning, you know I wouldn't actually call you a fool. I probably would, but you know I'm joking. What are your guys' thoughts on this? I'm interested. I'm definitely going to be testing it out over the next week. I'll have to remember to let you guys know. I'll probably make a video on it. Probably. Just like, I need to get better about making short, simple videos on maybe YouTube keeps begging me to do shorts, and maybe I'll do a short on this. Like, hey, I don't know. What are your guys' thoughts? The other new project that I saw, since you guys don't have much thoughts on Dagger, was Locust. Now, I don't know that Locust is actually new. And by that, I mean it's absolutely not. It's at 2.8, which if you're in Kubernetes means that the ecosystem, it's at least like 12 years old to get the 2.8. I had never used Locust. I had never seen Locust before. I've seen Locust, like the actual flying insect before, but anyways, this allows you, kind of like its name, Locust, to basically load test your APIs with Python. This is actually pretty cool because one of the things when you start to scale is, do you actually test that your thing can scale and handle load? It's hard to test. It's hard to actually know that. And this is where chaos engineering with load testing is the most, it's like the trifecta with only two things. Well, I guess testing is the third thing. Testing with load testing and chaos engineering. Because if you can simulate faults while scaling up and you can survive it, you have just made a highly available thing. So I think it's really important. And Locust looks to do that. I've been looking into some testing frameworks, and this is one of the ones that I saw. Don't hate on the fact that it uses Python. It's using Python to script. Probably the only acceptable reason to use Python right here is this. You script out some load tests that then can be done at scale. So it's cool. It's absolutely really cool. And then on top of this, there's this blog post that gives an introduction to it. So if you're interested in trying this out, looking at it, whatnot, they do Locust testing on Google GKE. Super cool. Love the blog post to go along with the project. I found the project through the blog post, and I thought it was good. Something I'm going to test out doing. So yeah, what are your guys' thoughts? My alarm. I should be done. Holy crap. This has gone on way longer than I meant for it to. So, Russell, what you really need to do is start automating your coffee making, your morning coffee making, using GitHub Actions and Dagger. Great YouTube video. If I was a real YouTuber, that's the YouTube video I would make. Using Dagger and GitHub Actions to make my morning coffee. Although I make a pour over with like a kettle, which might be difficult to automate. I need to get into robotics to use the arm to do. This is getting into Rolls Goldberg really quickly. Anyways, I need to get going. Are you talking about Locust? Locust does have an interface that, yes, it does have an interface that you can use. Absolutely. It also has Prometheus, I believe. So I think that you could set up some like custom dashboards if you want. But it absolutely has a base interface that you can check out that does all of the standard stuff. I do believe that it is very hackable. So I do believe that you can do like a Prometheus and Grafana dashboard if you wanted to for your tests. Yeah. Use a mocha pot. We need to have a coffee stream. Okay, so on our hacking stream that's coming up soon, we need to talk about coffee. So I dabble in roasting myself, not myself. Well, I do roast myself. Like I probably my own worst critic, but roasting coffee, and very much dabble. And then I do a nice pour over. I think it's nice at least, but I haven't gotten a mocha pot. I really would like an espresso machine, but I don't have something to grind it just right. I don't have a fine enough grinder, and I feel like to get a high enough quality grinder to grind an espresso, it's just too expensive to then also buy a mocha pot and whatnot. So anyways. All right, sweet. Oh, wait. Russell. Wait. Nothing. You had a tool. All right, we're going to look at your tool at next week because I actually have to get going. You had Elf and some other stuff. And Spin. Okay, so I'm going to look at those for this upcoming week. We'll talk about them next week. Thanks for bringing those up. Awesome. Thank you, everyone. I had a fantastic time with you. Have yourselves a fantastic week, and see you next week.